Before we go anywhere, let's take a breath together. Inhaling through the nose and slowly exhaling. Good. So we've been on a journey through this series. We've talked about the inner work and what it actually looks like. We've talked about why you're still anxious even though you're doing the practices. We've talked about the outside noise drowning out your inner voice. We've talked about why nothing feels like it's happening. We've talked about the moment you stop trusting yourself. We've talked about why you're not failing and that you're in it. And now I want to close this series with a question that sits underneath all of it. How do you actually know it's working? Because if you've been doing the work, showing up, practicing, trusting the process, you deserve to know the signs. Not the dramatic ones, not the Instagram transformation ones, the real ones, the quiet ones, the ones you've probably been walking right past. And that's what this episode is about. So let's start here. Most people are looking for the wrong signs of progress. They're looking for the big dramatic shifts, the moment where everything clicks, and all of a sudden, and life suddenly looks completely different. The transformation that's visible from the outside, the version of themselves that never gets triggered, never gets anxious, never struggles. And because that version never arrives, because progress doesn't look like that, they assume nothing is happening. They assume the work isn't working. But real progress doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with a fanfare. It arrives quietly, in the moment between the noise, the small, subtle shifts you almost miss because you're too busy looking for something bigger. So let me show you what to actually look for. The first sign is the knowing, and it's both the simplest and the hardest to trust. It's the gut feeling, that sense that something is right or something is off, before your mind has had a chance to analyze it, before you've asked anyone else's opinion, before you've Googled it or researched it or run it past 3 friends. Just a knowing. Sometimes it's strong, clear, and immediate. Or you walk into a situation and your body just says no, or yes, or not yet. Sometimes it's subtle, a quiet whisper, a gentle pull in one direction, and almost perceptible, and almost a sense that something doesn't feel right, but it's there. And here's how you know the inner work is working. You're starting to notice it. You're starting to trust it. You're starting to act on it before the outside world has a chance to talk you out of it. That's not nothing. That's everything. Because when you can hear your own knowing, when you can feel it in your body and trust it enough to follow it, you have access to the most accurate guidance system you will ever have. This is something I've learned deeply through my own inner work and through studying human design and gene keys, and there's a few others. I just can't think of the names off the top of my head, but astrology in general as well. Human design, I think, just builds on astrology. But your body has its own intelligence, its own way of telling you when you're on the right path and when you're not. And learning your specific signals, the way your body communicates with you personally, is one of the most powerful things you can do. For me, when I'm not on my path, when something is out of alignment, when I'm moving in the wrong direction, I feel frustration. And it says that in my human design. I forget exactly what it says, but it's the not part, and it says frustration. Not the frustration of a bad day, a deeper frustration, a persistent low-level resistance that my body is using to tell me this isn't it. And when something is right, when I'm meant to follow something, to pursue it, to say yes to it, I get emotional. Now, when I get emotional, I'm also waiting to respond. So I have to make sure it's my emotions and not someone else's before I actually respond to it. So I have to wait a good 24, maybe 48 hours. And if I still get that same emotion over it, then I know it's mine and not someone else's. And I used to ignore that. I used to think emotion meant a weakness or confusion or him being too sensitive. But now I understand it differently. Now, when emotion shows up around a decision or a direction, I sit with it. I give it time. I let it tell me what it knows. Because I've learned that, for me, that emotional response is a signal. It's my body's way of paying attention to this. It's my body saying, pay attention to this. So this matters. This is worth following. The signals might be different. Your signals might be different from mine. Most likely they will be. You might feel expansion or contraction, lightness or heaviness, clarity or fog. But your body has a language, an inner work. And inner work is how you learn to read it. And when you start to trust it, when you start to make decisions from that place instead of from fear or other people's opinions, that's how you know that it's working. Here's another sign that's easy to miss. You start to see people differently, not in a judgmental way, in an aware way. You start to notice when someone is projecting, when their anger isn't really about you, when their defensiveness is covering up something that they haven't looked at, when their reaction is bigger than the situation because they're carrying something has nothing to do with you. And instead of getting pulled into it, instead of reacting or defending or matching their energy, you pause. You see it, you understand it, and you get to choose. Do I have the capacity to hold space for this person right now? Or do I need to step back and protect my own energy? That choice, that pause between trigger and response, that awareness is what's yours and what's theirs, is the inner work showing up in real life. That's your nervous system operating differently than it used to. That's your awareness expanding. And you might not even notice it at first because it feels like you're just being yourself. But you're being a version of yourself that didn't exist before you started doing the work. A version that seems more clearly, that reacts less automatically, that chooses more consciously. Now I want to talk about something that I think is the most important sign of all. And it's something most people never connect to their inner work. When you do the inner work, when you regulate your nervous system, when you come into alignment with yourself, when you trust your knowing and follow your path, your energy changes. Not metaphorically, the energy that comes off of you changes. The way you walk into a room changes. The way you feel people around you changes. And here's what I believe about this deeply. The most powerful way to affect the people around you is not to tell them what to do, not to coach them, not to fix them, not to give them the perfect advice. It's to do your own work. Because when you do your work, when you come into coherence with yourself, with your heart space, with love, with God from within, that energy ripples out. It touches people around you without a single word even being spoken. And this is like specifically like, I want to say like 3 to 5 feet from you. And it's a company called HeartMath that has been discovering this along with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And they have actually found that when one person goes into coherence, the person next to them, it starts literally to ripple out. And so they were able to measure say like my heart rate rhythm through the person that would be sitting next to me through their brain waves. Come on, it's crazy. All right, enough off subject. But I've seen this happen when one person in a family starts doing the inner work, the whole family shifts. Now, sometimes I've been doing the inner work and my dad is still. So it does depend on the person. But my mom has started to shift, and I've seen it in her. But not because that person told everyone what to do, but because the energy changed. Because the presence changed. Because something differently started coming off that person. And everyone around them felt it. It's not woo-woo. The science of energy and the nervous system regulation. That's heart coherent affecting the field around you. That's love. Real love. God's love. The kind that lives inside you. Radiating outward. And that's the inner work. And that's the most powerful level. Yes, it does, depending on the person and how they react energetically to you and whatnot. But it does happen. And I want to tell you what it feels like when you're truly in alignment, when the work is working, when you're connected to yourself and to God within. For me, it's physical. It's a warming sensation around my heart center, right in the middle of the chest. And the warming starts there and then spreads to the full body. Something is saying yes. Like every part of me is in agreement. There's no separation between what I know and what I feel and what I'm doing. That's coherence. That's alignment. That's the inner work working. And it doesn't happen every day. It doesn't stay forever. It does, but it comes more often. The more consistent the practice, the more you return to yourself. The more you start trusting, the more you trust the knowing, the more you choose love over fear. And when it comes, even for a moment, even briefly, you know the work is working. You know you're right on the path. You know everything is unfolding exactly as it's supposed to. That feeling is available to you. It's not reserved for people who have it all figured out. It's not something you earn over years of perfect practice. It's available right now, in the next breath and the next moment of stillness. In the next time you choose to listen to your body instead of the noise around you. So let me bring this all together. How do you know the inner work is actually working? You know when the small things stop becoming big things. You know when you hear your own knowing, and you trust it enough to follow it. You know when your body starts speaking to you in a language you understand. You know when you see other people's patterns without being consumed by them. You know when you pause before you react. You know when you come back to yourself faster than before. You know when you feel that warmth in your chest and that full body yes that tells you everything is aligned. And almost all you know when the work is working because you're still here. You're still showing up. You're still practicing. Still trusting the process even when it's hard. That's not nothing. That's everything. So I want to close this series with the most important thing I know. When you do the inner work, when you come into coherence with yourself, within your heart space, with the love and the God that invites you inside, something happens that goes beyond you. That energy changes, and the energy ripples out into your relationships, into your family, into every room you walk, into every person whose life touches yours. Not because you told them what to do, not because you fixed them, not because you had the perfect words, but because of what comes off of you when you've done the work, when you've regulated, when you're aligned, when you're connected to the love that lives inside you. That love is God. And when it moves through you, when you stop blocking it with fear and conditioning and self doubt, it touches everything around you. That's not corny. That's the most powerful thing a human being can do. So keep doing the work, not just for yourself, for everyone else whose life you touch, for the ripple you don't even know you're creating, for the world that needs your energy to be as clear and coherent and loving as it can be. That's the inner work. That's what it's for. That's how you know it's working. So thank you for being here in this series, and I'll see you in the next series.